It's the Las Vegas Sportsline.
All right, here we go. It's the Wednesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. I'm Dave Koch, and Teddy Covers is here. Ted Savransky, Mark Seidel is on the other side of the console, staying as far away from us as possible. Although Teddy has food, so we'll see if Seidel slips around to the other side of the console to grab some French fries. They smell good. They smell really good. You are really taking a chance, buddy.
Well, I mean,
because you put the French fries really close to me.
Knock yourself out.
You had the other side of the room.
That's the beauty of French fries. You can have as many as you want. Have at them, Dave. There's, Mark, all good. If you're out there listening, you want a French fry,
stop by. We're going to have Brent Crow with us later on. Brent is he's a terrific all-sports handicapper, but he really knows his college hoops. And this is going to be a handicapper's hour. We don't have any odds makers on today. Jason Simmel will be back on tomorrow. Before we get into the games that will be taking place, let's talk about some of the ones that already did. And we'll talk about the Golden Knights first because you can feel the excitement coming on. The Golden Knights have gotten hot. There is no coincidence that this has coincided with the return of Schmidt. They're a more confident team, and they're just a better team with Schmidt on the blue line, making things happen. Fleury has been amazing. I don't know if he's going to last the season due to exhaustion. I mean, they need to do something about the backup. But, I mean, they're hot now. 4 in a row, just went in and beat the snot out of the Blackhawks last night. That was a nice win, especially for the fans who attended the viewing parties around the city. The Cosmo had one. Sunset Station had theirs, and I understand the turnouts were great at both. And the fans they're feeling good again.
So every week or two, we have this discussion, Dave, and I'm like, all right, what's the story with the Knights this year? They're not. Now all of a sudden they are. Is this real? Is this something that we can here this team is? They're going to be contenders. They're going to win a playoff series. Or is this, all right, we're having a little hot run, and let's enjoy it while we can and make money with it while we can?
Both. Because the good news for them is they're a lousy division.
Okay.
And that's a big plus as far as them making the playoffs are concerned. Do I think they're going to be making another deep run like they did last year? Honestly, no. I just don't think they're good enough. But a couple of weeks ago, we're looking at this team and going, geez, they're even going to win 500. And, are they going to make the playoffs? And now I think, and it's a small sample, but sometimes that's all it takes. I think you can look at this team going, yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs again. And at that point, anything is possible.
And confidence is such a big piece of the equation. Even as bettors, sometimes we underestimate what it means to be in good rhythm and to feel good about yourselves and to feel, as a handicapper, I notice the difference when I'm feeling good.
No question about it.
And
games jump off the page.
Sure.
Whereas when you're struggling, it's like, even the games you like, you find something wrong with it.
I'm confident that it's a similar story with athletes at every level.
Oh, I think so.
Where when you're running good, guess what? You just become a bet-on team, and that's what the Golden Knights were last night.
And one guy can do that. I think Schmidt's made a tremendous difference in this team. Look.
Well, Fleury.
Fleury goes without saying.
Yeah, but that's not one guy. That's two guys.
Schmidt was the guy in the playoffs last year. I mean, among the position players, he was awesome in the playoffs last year. I mean, had they won it all, I guess Fleury would have won the Conn Smythe, but boy, you could have made a case for Schmidt. And his presence on the ice has improved every other player on the team, just for the reason you just said.
Yeah, and, a nice victory last night. Now they got to do it again.
Well, 4 in a row. Let's keep it rolling. A big announcement today. If there was anybody left who didn't think that professional sports leagues love the idea, and always have, just we're afraid to admit it, but love the idea of legalized sports wagering, the news from the WNBA/NBA, that's really big today, Teddy.
It is. And, of course, now we're talking about official odds providers, official, where they're holding hands with casinos when it comes to stats and in-game wagering, which is, as everyone, in-game's the future. In-game's the present, And when you talk about handle, not necessarily hold, but handle, where bettors are able to make a bet have that bet decided, and then make another bet 2 minutes later. Boy, I mean, the odds makers love the concept, and the leagues love the concept of having that level of engagement from their viewers, and the bettors love the action.
And from the NBA's standpoint in particular, with football, I think football is so strong, people watch anyway. But basketball is another story entirely. You got to find a way to keep people glued to the sets or their devices during the regular season. And in-game wagering is the way to do it.
Sure, and basketball games are shorter.
Yeah.
They're shorter than football games, they're shorter than baseball games, they're shorter than hockey games. You can get in and out, in a 2.5-hour window. In the NBA, in college, it's really a 2-hour window for these games. And with the level of possessions in basketball, when you're talking about making bets at that level, boy, your handle goes through the roof. And when you're talking about in-game numbers, the stat, being the official stat provider, it means something. And the fact that the casinos are partnering with the leagues this quickly tells us everything we already knew.
Yeah, but I'll say this. In terms of single instance significance, the fact that this is geared completely to in-game betting, this is the biggest thing in sports gambling since the inception of Monday Night Football, which was absolutely for the gamblers. I talked about that doing the Showtime thing today for Kelly. I was in that business back then, okay? And I used to do more bets. I used to take more action on the Monday Night Football game than all the Sunday games combined.
Yeah, I mean,
enormous. That's what it wasn't about Howard Cosell and his stupid toupee.
It was about all the bettors trying to either double up or break even.
Well, it was the one game they bet because everybody was watching this game. You only had regional. You had one national game a week, and then you had your local team. That's it back then. There was no Red Zone. There was no direct TV. There were no packages or anything like that. Where I grew up, you saw the Giants, okay? You saw the Giants every week on some crappy black and white set, okay? And then Monday Night Football came along, and it completely changed. And if the NFL ever tries to pretend it wasn't about getting more people betting on the games and therefore watching the games, they're lying through their teeth, which they did for decades and decades. Now they're not lying anymore.
So I back in the day, I did this whole research project with Howard Schwartz from the Gamblers Book Club.
Sure.
And it was about the history of betting and the history of betting on football. You know why? I mean, the NFL games are played at 1 o'clock on Sundays. This is a direct quote. Because they need somewhere to bet after they go to church. End quote. That was, I forget if it was Mara or Rooney or one of the original.
By the way, we're bookies.
They were all bookies. Yeah, I mean, it was a league built for bookies. Because on the racetracks, the blue laws, so the racetracks are closed on Sunday. So that's why you have football games at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Of course, that's back east for bettors, so they have somewhere to bet after church.
Warning to Major League Baseball.
Falling behind.
You better get with it. You're already losing clients as it is, or customers. You really need to get into the live betting, big time. Okay,
and baseball's made for it.
Oh, it's the best sport for it. In terms of the what's the word I'm looking for? Just in terms of from a fundamental betting standpoint, live betting standpoint, baseball is actually the game that offers the most possibilities.
Sure, and again, from a historical perspective, I was talking about the history of gambling in the U.S. Our gambling on sports in the U.S. started with baseball, and everybody bet baseball for 50 years.
Baseball, boxing, and horse racing. Boxing was a betting sport, always has been, and horse racing, well, obviously is a betting sport. Anyway, good stuff. That is big news today. If you haven't heard it yet, check it out online. There's plenty of places where you can locate those stories. All right, let's go to our Wednesday MJ Christensen 4 at 4.
1, 2, bring it to the phone.
Put the fours up. Put the fours up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
And one more thing, Major League Baseball. Stop blacking out games, you morons.
Well,
you don't want less people watching.
There are so many things that baseball has done. And look, it will eventually kill them.
Well,
the mistakes they're making and have made over the last 20 years.
Bud Selig was the worst commissioner. He makes Bowie Kuhn look like a genius. Bud Selig is the worst commissioner in any sport ever.
Sure.
Might be a nice guy. Might have sold a lot of used cars in his time. No clue at all. And they hold him up like, oh, Bud Selig, he did wonders for the game. He was terrible.
Well, I mean, it's short-term revenue in the leagues. I mean, the revenue increased with Bud Selig as commissioner. Therefore,
it's basically like taking $1 million and sticking it into a fund where he can't do anything but do better. Okay, okay. That had nothing to do with any good decisions on your part. You just happened to go along for the ride. Anyway, let's look at games tonight. College basketball. 3 of this ACC Big Ten Challenge and the Rebels. In this portion of the show, we will save one of the ACC Big Ten matchups for the marquee matchup later on. Syracuse and Ohio State. And by the way, here's something new. We now have these numbers to digest. The new NCAA net rankings, which are being ridiculed.
as they should be.
Well, I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens. I know.
It doesn't matter. We'll see what happens. You can't put out a first ranking that's that bad and expect it to be realistic and taken seriously.
I want to see how they
just look where Kentucky
toward
is.
the end of the year.
Yeah, but look where I
know Loyola Marymount. They did drop all the way to 13 after last night. They're not the 10th best team in the country. They are improved, but the Lions are not the 10th best team in the country. But I'm interested to see if there's anything that can be gleaned from these numbers as far as beating the spread is concerned. Will they be given any weight by the market, which could influence bets on games? That remains to be seen. So that's why I am actually charting these. And I'll tell you where the rankings are for all the teams today.
Cool.
Syracuse and Ohio State. This is 119 Syracuse against 2 Ohio State. Well, the number's up. I mean, it's a high number. It's higher than KenPom had the game 2. They opened the game 5.5. I think it came to 5. Usually don't see that much of a difference, so I wonder if some people... I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Did people look at this, enough people look at this and go, oh, Ohio State 2 and Syracuse 119. Ohio State's got to be a favorite in this game. Well, they are.
Ohio State looks really good.
Yeah, they have. Yes, they do.
Syracuse had the losses to UConn and Oregon, And when you're losing games as favorites, early in the season, the markets are going to react, and you're going to see something. But in both of those losses, they got crushed on the boards. And I wonder if that's going to be a problem tonight, because the Buckeyes certainly don't lack for interior size.
I got priced out of the game. Had the game come to,
yeah.
I think I might have taken a shot with Ohio State.
That's why I didn't come to.
Not 5.5. No, thank you, and I don't want the other team. I toyed with making this one a marquee matchup. There's 2 great games tonight. And this is one of Virginia, Maryland. Virginia currently, now they got this one pretty good, number 3. Maryland, number 15. And you know what? They kind of look it so far. Terrapins might be better than people thought going into the season. They were up 47 on Marshall over the weekend. Marshall's not that bad, okay? And they just killed him, won by 37. And the Terrapins, here's the worry I've got on the Terrapins, Teddy. Are they going to be a Jekyll and Hyde again, where at times they look like they can play with anybody in the country, and then at times it looks like they can't beat Fordham? And I don't know. That's a time will tell type of thing. I think this has a chance to be a really good game tonight.
And that was definitely the Maryland team from at times last year that they were a team that could compete with the best teams in the country. But it certainly wasn't on a game in, game out, week in, week out basis. Both these teams have essentially feasted on the week in early season play. The win over Marshall was the first time all year Maryland hadn't been laying doubles. That's because they were laying 9.5 in that
should have been laying more, as it turned out.
Clearly. But, they were playing a team that, and they've been living in large part early on with some great offensive metrics. I mean, their offensive numbers are off the charts. That is not going to happen against Virginia's defense.
No.
So Maryland living on offense is fine. And it's fine for that level of competition. But one thing the Cavs are, they've already played Dayton. They've already played Wisconsin. They're a little bit more battle-tested than Maryland.
Here's a good one, Purdue and Florida State. Now, this is an interesting one from the net rankings standpoint provided by the NCAA because this game is one where we would have a false favorite according to those numbers. Florida State, 40.